Reg Park was not just a bodybuilder. He was a phenomenon that confused everyone who watched him train. Olympic weightlifters would see him in the gym and wonder why a physique competitor was squatting 600 pounds. Bodybuilders would watch his brutal workouts and ask why he wasn't training like them, why his methods looked so different, so wrong according to everything they'd been taught. Hollywood directors would meet him in person and struggle to believe that a human being could actually look like a living Hercules statue without movie magic. And the secret behind all of it was a training trick that sounded odd, too simple, or too brutal, depending on who you asked. It was a method that made no sense to the bodybuilding establishment of the 1940s and 1950s. It was a routine that left strength athletes scratching their heads. It was a system so straightforward that when people finally understood what Park was doing, they couldn't believe something that basic could produce such incredible results. The result was a 3-time Mr. Universe who could match Olympic lifters on the squat and bench press, a physique that landed him Hercules roles in Italian films, and a training philosophy so effective that it inspired a teenage Arnold Schwarzenegger to completely reshape his approach to bodybuilding. This is a story of how Reg Park's odd training trick made him stronger than Olympic lifters, more muscular than bodybuilders, and created a legacy that changed strength training forever. But to understand why his method was so revolutionary, we first need to understand what everyone else was doing wrong. Before Reg Park, bodybuilders didn't train for real strength. In the 1940s and early 1950s, bodybuilding culture had a very specific philosophy about muscle. You train for the pump. You train for the burn. You train to make your muscles swell with blood and look impressive under stage lights. Strength was almost irrelevant. If you could curl 50 pounds for 20 reps and get a massive bicep pump, that was considered superior to curling 100 pounds for 5 reps with less of pump. The reasoning made sense on the surface. Bodybuilding was about appearance, not performance. Judges didn't ask how much you could lift. They asked how you looked. So bodybuilders focus on isolation exercises, high repetition ranges, and constant variety to hit every angle of every muscle. The goal was show muscles, not functional strength. You wanted to look like you could lift a car, but nobody actually cared if you could. Reg Park looked at this philosophy and rejected it completely. He came from a background where strength mattered. He understood that real muscle, dense muscle, functional muscle came from moving heavy weight. He saw that Olympic weightlifters, despite not training specifically for physique, often had incredibly developed legs, backs, and shoulders simply because they were moving massive loads in the squat, clean, and press. So Park did something that seemed strange, unfocused, and borderline reckless to his bodybuilding peers. He started training like a strength athlete while maintaining the physique goals of a bodybuilder. He refused to accept the idea that you had to choose between being strong and looking good. He believed that if you built genuine strength on basic compound movements, size would follow automatically. The muscle you build from squatting 500 pounds will be thicker, denser, and more impressive than muscle built from endless leg extensions. This was heresy in the bodybuilding world of his time. It was an odd trick that went against everything the established champions were preaching. But Reg Park didn't care about fitting in. He cared about results. And the results were about to shock everyone. The odd trick, power bodybuilding 5x5 before it had a name. The core of Reg Park's odd training trick was brutally simple. 5 sets of 5 reps on heavy compound lifts. That was it. No complicated periodization schemes. No endless variety of exercises. No special techniques or secret methods. Just 5 sets of 5 reps, adding weight whenever you successfully completed all the sets with good form. This approach sounds obvious now because we live in an era where 5x5 training has been analyzed, popularized, and commercialized by dozens of strength coaches. But in the 1950s, this was genuinely weird. Bodybuilders were doing 3 sets of 12, for sets of 10, or giant sets of 20-plus reps. The idea of doing heavy 5s was what Olympic lifters did as assistants work, not what physique competitors built their entire programs around. Park's version of 5x5 was a hybrid that confused everyone. He mixed Olympic-style strength training with bodybuilding volume. The first 2 sets of his 5x5 scheme were often warm-ups, building up to the weight. The last 3 sets were brutally heavy working sets where he pushed his limits. He focused on the same exercises Olympic lifters use for strength: the squat, the overhead press, the barbell row. But he also included the bench press and dedicated arm work, which Olympic lifters largely ignored. Why lifters thought it was weird or unfocused comes down to expectations. Olympic weightlifters saw a bodybuilder doing their exercises and wondered why he wasn't focusing on the competition lifts that actually mattered in weightlifting. Bodybuilders saw someone doing heavy low-rep work and wondered why he wasn't doing more isolation exercises, more variety, more techniques to chase the pump. Both groups thought Park was trying to do too much, that he was splitting his focus and would end up being mediocre at both strength and physique. The intensity was another factor. 5x5 done properly with progressively heavier weight is absolutely brutal. It requires total mental focus and physical recovery. There's no hiding behind fancy techniques or lightweight. You either lift the bar for 5 sets of 5 or you don't. Park's workouts were exhausting, uncomfortable, and demanded constant progression. To bodybuilders used a lighter pump work, this seemed like unnecessary punishment. To strength athletes, it seemed like too much volume for someone who also cared about aesthetics. But Park understood something that both groups were missing. Heavy compound lifts done for multiple sets build dense, functional muscle that looks as strong as it actually is. The 5x5 system creates both nervous system adaptation and muscular growth. It forces progressive overload in a way that high-rep pump training doesn't. And it produces a physique that can back up its appearance with genuine performance. This was power bodybuilding before anyone called it that. And it was the odd trick that would make Reg Park a legend. Reg Park lifted like a weightlifter and a bodybuilder at the same time. The foundation of Reg Park's training was a big 5: squat, bench press, deadlift, barbell row, and overhead press. These were the exercises he built his entire physique around. Everything else was supplementary. While other bodybuilders were doing dozens of different movements to hit every possible angle, Park was loading a barbell and going heavy on the basics. His squat sessions were legendary. Park would work up to weights that most bodybuilders couldn't even imagine handling. 5 sets of 5 with 500, 550, 600 pounds. Deep squats, full range of motion, no half reps or ego lifting. He treated the squat like a religion, understanding that nothing builds total body muscle mass like heavy squatting done consistently over time. The bench press was another cornerstone. Park was pressing weights that rivaled or exceeded what many strength specialists were lifting. 500 pounds for reps was not a fantasy for him. It was a training reality. He understood that a massive chest and strong triceps came from progressive overload on the bench, not from endless cable flies and machine work. Barbell rows built his back thickness. Overhead presses built his shoulders and upper chest. Deadlifts built everything. These 5 movements formed the core of nearly every workout Park did. He approached them with the mentality of an Olympic lifter. Strict form, progressive weight increases, total commitment to getting stronger over time. Progressive overload was Park's religion. Every workout, the goal was to either add weight to the bar or add an extra rep. He tracked his numbers religiously and refused to accept stagnation. If you completed 5 sets of 5 with 300 pounds on the squat, the next session you were trying 310. If you got that, you tried 320. Constant progression, constant challenge, constant growth. The minimal fluff approach was very strange for bodybuilders of his era. Most physique competitors were doing isolation exercises for every body part. Concentration curls, lateral raises, leg extensions, calf raises, tricep pushdowns, and endless variations. Park did some of this, but it was always secondary. His philosophy was that if you squat heavy, your legs will grow. If you press heavy, your shoulders will grow. If you row heavy, your back will grow. The isolation work was just icing on a cake built from compound strength. This dual approach, lifting like a weightlifter in exercise selection and intensity while maintaining a bodybuilder's focus on physique and proportion, was what made Park's method genuinely odd. He refused to fit into either category cleanly. He was a hybrid, a power bodybuilder before the fitness industry had terminology for what he was doing, and the results spoke for themselves. Park built a physique that looked like a Greek statue and could perform like a strength athlete. His odd trick was working. The monster routine. How Park built his inhuman strength. Reg Park's most famous routine was his 5x5 system broken into stages for beginners, intermediates, and advanced lifters. But the core principle stayed the same across all levels. Heavy compound exercises, 5 sets of 5 reps, relentless progression. A classic Reg Park workout looks something like this. Back squat for 5 sets of 5 reps, bench press for 5 sets of 5, barbell row for 5 sets of 5, standing overhead press for 5 sets of 5, barbell curl for 5 sets of 5, and calf raises for higher reps. That was the entire session. 6 exercises, done 3 days per week, full body every workout. The program flow was brutally simple. You started with your heaviest, most demanding exercise, the squat. You did your warm-up sets, then your 3 heavy working sets of 5 reps. If you completed all 3 working sets successfully, you added weight next session. If you fail to get 5 reps on any set, you stay at that weight until you conquered it. After squats came upper body pressing, usually the bench press. Same protocol. 5 sets of 5, progressive overload, no mercy, then rowing for back thickness, then overhead pressing for shoulders, then some arm work and calves to finish. The whole workout might take 90 minutes if you rested properly between the heavy sets, but every minute was productive. No wasted time, no junk volume, no exercises included just to feel busy. The high-volume back training deserves special attention. Park understood that a thick, powerful back was a foundation of a strong physique. His rowing work was done with the same intensity as his pressing. He pulled heavy, he pulled strict, and he pulled often. The result was a back that looked like armor plating and could support the massive weights he was moving on squats and deadlifts. The advanced versions of his program added more exercises and slightly more volume, but the core stayed identical. Heavy squats, heavy presses, heavy pulls, progressive overload, consistency. He might add in deadlifts on certain days, or include more direct arm and shoulder work for bodybuilding purposes, but the foundation never changed. What made this routine a monster wasn't complexity. It was the sheer physical and mental demand of going heavy on compound lifts 3 days per week after week, month after month, year after year. There was no hiding from a bar. There was no skipping the hard stuff and doing easy isolation work instead. You either lifted the weight or you didn't. You either got stronger or you failed. Park's inhuman strength came from this relentless simplicity, while others were constantly changing programs, trying new techniques, chasing the latest training fad. Park was squatting, pressing, and rowing with progressively heavier weight. The routine was boring on paper and brutal in reality. And that brutal simplicity is exactly what made it terrifyingly effective. Why his odd trick worked. The science behind it explained simply. The reason Reg Park's 5x5 system produced such incredible results comes down to how the human body actually builds strength and muscle. And the science, when you strip away the complicated terminology, is brutally simple. First, understand that strength gains come from 2 primary sources: nervous system adaptation and muscle fiber growth. When you lift heavy weight for low reps, your nervous system learns to recruit more muscle fiber simultaneously. Your brain gets better at sending the signal that says fire everything at once. This is why someone can get dramatically stronger without gaining much visible muscle mass. Their nervous system is simply becoming more efficient at using what they already have. Park's 5x5 training hammered this nervous system adaptation relentlessly. Every heavy set of 5 reps was teaching his body to recruit maximum muscle fibers. Every session where he pushed for progressive overload was reinforcing those neural pathways. Over months and years, this created a level of strength that went far beyond what his muscle size alone would suggest. But the second factor is where Park's odd trick really shined: muscle fiber thickness. When you lift heavy weights, you create micro tears in muscle fibers. The body repairs these tears by making the fibers slightly thicker and stronger. This is basic muscle growth. But here's the key. Heavy compound exercises done for multiple sets create this effect across massive amounts of muscle tissue simultaneously. When Park squatted 5 sets of 5 with 500 pounds, he wasn't just working his quadriceps. He was stressing his glutes, hamstrings, lower back, upper back, abs, and even his grip and forearms to stabilize the weight. Every muscle involved in moving that loaded barbell was being forced to adapt. Compare this to a bodybuilder doing leg extensions for 3 sets of 12. The leg extension might create a great pump in the quadriceps, but it's only working one muscle group in isolation, and it's not creating the same level of total body stress. The 5x5 rep scheme hit a sweet spot that neither pure strength training nor traditional bodybuilding was exploiting. 5 reps is heavy enough to force maximum neural recruitment and create serious overload on the muscle fibers. But it's also enough volume per set to create meaningful muscle damage and growth stimulus. 5 sets gives you enough total work to accumulate serious training volume, but not so much that you burn out or sacrifice intensity on each set. This created dense, functional muscle. Park's physique didn't have the soft, pumped-up look that some bodybuilders achieve with high-rep isolation work. His muscle had a hardness to it, a thickness that came from moving brutal weights week after week. When Olympic lifters saw his development, they recognized it. That was muscle built from heavy squatting and pressing, not from machines and cables. The progressive overload component was equally critical. Park didn't just do 5 sets of 5 and call it good. He constantly added weight to the bar. This meant his muscles never fully adapted. They were always being challenged with slightly more stress than before, which forced continuous growth and strength gains. Traditional bodybuilders who kept doing the same exercises with the same weights for months might maintain their muscle, but they stopped growing. Park's system forced constant adaptation. Finally, the compound exercise focus meant Park was building strength that transferred across movements. The squat made his deadlift stronger. The overhead press made his bench stronger. Everything reinforced everything else. This is why he could put up numbers that matched Olympic lifters on basic power lifts like the squat and bench, even though he wasn't training specifically for those competition lifts. His entire system was built around getting stronger on fundamental human movement patterns. The science wasn't complicated. Heavy weight plus progressive overload plus compound movements equals strength and size. But in an era where bodybuilders were chasing the pump and Olympic lifters were focusing on snatch and clean technique, Park's willingness to marry both approaches created something genuinely revolutionary. Reg Park's diet: steak, milk, and mountains of calories. Reg Park's training was brutal, and his diet matched that intensity. This wasn't a man counting macros or worrying about meal timing. This was old-school bulking in its purest, most extreme form. Park ate massive amounts of food because he understood a simple truth. You cannot build the kind of muscle and strength he was chasing while eating like a normal person. The foundation of his diet was protein and lots of it. Steak was a staple. Multiple large steaks per day were common during his heavy training phases. He also consumed enormous quantities of eggs, often eating a dozen or more eggs daily. These were whole eggs, not egg whites. Park understood that the fat and cholesterol in whole eggs supported hormone production and provided concentrated calories needed for recovery and growth. Milk was another cornerstone. Park reportedly drank several pints of whole milk every single day. In the 1950s, milk was considered the ultimate muscle-building food, and Park took that advice to an extreme. The combination of protein, fats, and carbohydrates in whole milk made it an ideal food for someone training as hard as he was. Some accounts describe him drinking a gallon of milk daily during his most intense bulking phases. The carbohydrates came from potatoes, rice, and bread. Park didn't avoid carbs or treat them as the enemy. He recognized that squatting 600 pounds 3 days per week required massive amount of energy. Potatoes provided that energy in a simple, digestible form. Rice and bread added more calories and carbohydrates to fuel his workouts and recovery. Vegetables were included, but weren't the focus. Park ate them for general health and nutrition, but his priority was getting enough protein and calories to support his training. A typical Park meal might be 2 large steaks, a mountain of potatoes, some vegetables, and a quart of milk. Then he'd repeat that pattern multiple times throughout the day. The total calorie intake was extreme by normal standards, but perfectly logical for someone moving the kind of weight Park was handling. Conservative estimates put his daily intake during heavy training at well over 4,000 calories, possibly approaching 5,000 or 6,000 on training days. This wasn't gluttony. This was fueling a machine that was squatting, pressing, and deadlifting with Olympic-level weights multiple times per week. What shocks modern fans about Park's diet is the simplicity. There were no special supplements, no exotic superfoods, no carefully timed nutrient windows. It was meat, eggs, milk, and potatoes. Real food in large quantities. The philosophy was straightforward. Eat big to get big, but make it real food. No junk, no processed garbage, just massive amounts of quality protein and carbohydrates. This approach wouldn't work for someone trying to get lean or maintain single-digit body fat percentages. Park's off-season weight could climb to 250 pounds or more, well above his contest weight of around 225. But that extra body weight supported his strength. It gave him the mass and stability to handle truly heavy weights. When contest time came, he'd reduce calories and lean out, but during the building phases, he ate like a man with serious work to do. The diet was extreme, but it matched the training. You cannot expect to build the kind of strength and muscle Reg Park achieved while eating a normal diet. His approach was eating based on energy needs, not moderation. And the results, once again, spoke for themselves. Hollywood wanted Hercules, and Reg Park looked like the statue. When Italian film directors needed someone to play Hercules in the early 1960s, they had a problem. Steve Reeves had set the aesthetic standard, but directors wanted something different now. They wanted raw size, thickness, and power that jumped off the screen. They wanted Reg Park. Park landed roles in Hercules in the Conquest of Atlantis and Hercules in the Haunted World, both in 1961. When he appeared shirtless on screen, the difference was shocking. His chest was enormous. His arms were thick slabs of muscle. His legs looked like tree trunks. But what really set him apart was the density. His muscle looked hard, functional, like it was built from years of squatting 600 pounds, not from posing in front of mirrors. Directors were stunned. They didn't need body doubles for strength scenes. They didn't need camera tricks to make Park look bigger. The man was genuinely massive, and his 5x5 strength training showed in every frame. When Park lifted props or performed action sequences, the strength was real. He didn't just play Hercules. He looked like the statue of Hercules had walked onto a film set. Park's movie physique wasn't built for Hollywood. It was built through years of brutal training for genuine strength. Hollywood simply recognized what he had created and put it on screen, and that authentic power translated better than any artificially created physique ever could. Arnold's inspiration, how a teenage Schwarzenegger studied Park's method. In Austria in the late 1950s, a teenage Arnold Schwarzenegger saw Reg Park in a Hercules movie and had a revelation. This wasn't just seeing a muscular man on screen. Arnold saw someone who represented everything he wanted to become. Huge, strong, successful, and famous. Park became Arnold's blueprint. When Arnold studied Park's training methods, he discovered the 5x5 system and the strength-first philosophy. This changed everything. Arnold had been training like most bodybuilders, focusing on pump and isolation work. Park's approach showed him that building serious size required building serious strength first. Arnold adopted the 5x5 mentality early in his career. He made squat, bench press, deadlift, and overhead press the foundation of his training. He embraced progressive overload with religious dedication. While Arnold's training later evolved, those early years of development were heavily influenced by Park's power bodybuilding approach. The mental impact was equally significant. Park showed Arnold that bodybuilders could be strong and aesthetic, that you could be a champion and a movie star. Park was living proof that bodybuilding could lead to fame and opportunities beyond competitions. Arnold eventually met and trained with Park, and those sessions reinforced the no-nonsense, heavyweight philosophy that stayed with Arnold throughout his career. Park influenced the entire golden era through his impact on Arnold. When Arnold became dominant in the late 1960s and 1970s, he brought Park's strength-first mentality with him. The emphasis on heavy compound movements became more mainstream in bodybuilding, and it happened because Arnold learned it directly from Reg Park. Why modern lifters still can't match his simplicity. Today's fitness culture is drowning in complexity. Training apps, fitness influencers, and commercial gyms push programs with dozens of exercises, complicated periodization, intricate tempo prescriptions, and endless variations. Modern lifters are told they need to constantly change workouts, track everything, time nutrients perfectly, and follow programs that change weekly. Reg Park's method was the opposite. Pick 5 or 6 heavy compound exercises. Do 5 sets of 5 reps. Add weight when you complete all sets. Repeat 3 days per week for years. No apps, no complexity, no program hopping. The simplicity is what modern lifters struggle with. It's harder to stick to a simple program than a complicated one because there's nowhere to hide. If you're not getting stronger on the squat, bench, row, and press over time, you're not training effectively. The simplicity forces honesty. This simplicity also made Park stronger than many modern natural lifters who have better nutrition information, equipment, and recovery tools. Park built his physique with basic barbells in gyms, without air conditioning. He ate large amounts of real food and trained hard. Most modern lifters, with all their advantages, still can't match his results. Modern fitness culture struggles with this because simplicity doesn't sell. You can't build a coaching business around telling people to squat heavy and eat steak. So the industry manufactures complexity. But the lifters who return to Park's fundamental approach get the best results. 5x5 programs still work because they're based on principles that haven't changed. Heavy compounds, progressive overload, consistency. Park had the courage to ignore distractions and master the basics. Most modern lifters don't. And that's why his legacy still stands as a challenge to anyone who thinks they need more than a barbell and the will to get stronger. The legacy, the blueprint of power bodybuilding. Reg Park died in 2007, but his training philosophy experienced a massive resurgence in the internet age. Lifters discovered his methods and realized that old-school strength training produced better results than modern bodybuilding splits and machine programs. The term power bodybuilding, which Park essentially invented, became a recognized category. Modern programs like 531, Texas Method, and countless YouTube philosophies are directly descended from Park's approach. Fitness influencers present his 5x5 system as revolutionary, and for audiences raised on pump training, it feels that way. But Park was doing it 70 years ago. Park proved natural athletes could build incredible physiques through food, heavy weights, and consistency. Modern natural lifters study his measurements and photos to understand what achievable drug-free through optimal training. His influence on Arnold means his influence touched every golden era bodybuilder, and that lineage runs through bodybuilding history today. His legacy lives in hardcore gyms that reject modern fitness culture, places with heavy barbells, chalk, and no mirrors, communities that value strength over aesthetics. These exist because Park showed that serious training produces serious results. Perhaps most importantly, Park proved that simplicity works. You don't need the perfect program or optimal supplements. You need a barbell, progressive resistance, and years of dedication. The odd trick that confused his peers became the blueprint that influenced champions and continues working for natural athletes today. His legacy is simple. Strength builds muscle, heavy compounds build strength, and progressive overload builds both. This was odd in 1950. It's still uncommon today, but it works now exactly like it worked then. Reg Park's strength wasn't an accident. Everything came from a training philosophy that seemed odd to everyone around him, but proved undeniably effective through decades of results. The odd training trick was 5 sets of 5 reps on heavy compound exercises, done with progressive overload, 3 days per week for years. It was power bodybuilding before the term existed. It was refusing to choose between strength and size, between function and appearance. Park broke every rule of 1950s bodybuilding. He trained with weights that scared his peers. He did low reps when everyone did high reps. He focused on 5 exercises when everyone did 20. And he created a body strong enough to match Olympic lifters, beautiful enough to play Hercules, and influential enough to inspire Arnold Schwarzenegger. His method lived on through Arnold, through Golden Era champions, and through 5x5 programs still used today. Park proved that simplicity, discipline, and raw strength could outshine any complicated program. His legacy challenges every modern lifter. Are you getting stronger on fundamental movements or just getting busier in the gym? The odd trick that made Reg Park stronger than Olympic lifters wasn't odd at all. It was honest, brutal, and simple. And 70 years later, it still works better than almost everything that's replaced it.